Hotapu everyone. This is Royal Majesty King Ra Sumbafagbemi, the world's first openly African black gay king. And the reason I mention that, of course, is A, my pride in being so, but also to remind the world that the gay people of Africa were the premier astrologers of the land. We were called the gatekeepers. We are still called that by the Dogon. And our job was to maintain the balance between the gates or the starry gods in the sky with the people on earth. Out of my dedication to that ancestral legacy, I bring you this video. Now, this video will seem rather straightforward, but I intend for the world to see that this list on the screen is of massive import, in that after many years of research, many years of analysis, I'm able to generate this outline, revealing what the Kamau called many of the fixed stars that we use today. Why is that important? Because each of these stars have a Neteru or a god attached to them, or a divine archetype. And by seeing how the Africans of the Nile Valley saw the star Sirius or the star Vega, will change how astrology is read. It changes how you read your chart, how you'll see your money or your health or your friendships or your marriages. We will describe a chart in very different language, the language of the gods of Egypt. This language gives a kind of deep African psychology that ties into that particular star that was not able to be seen until we had this list of correlates. So for example, we have here the first one called Algeba, which is also called by the Kamau Hedge Hetep. Hedge means something like the color white, and Hetep means peace and calm. Peace and calm. So in the papyrus, the Cairo papyrus, it reads, in the first season of Akhet, the 10th day, it reads, it is the day of the going forth of Hedgetep, while all the gods and goddesses are in festivity. The Hedgetep and the Tayet, the goddess of weaving, come forth from the temple of Benben on this day. This is, when researched, it was the rising, the halakha rising of Algeba, the gamma star in Leo. Regulus is called the flame. The second one is called the flame. In the papyrus, it says, on first Akhet, the 11th, it is the day of the going forth of the great flame raging in the inaccessible shrine, who are in the following of his majesty. And it says, the great flame guided into her house of the desert of eternity, along the way which she has found among them, so is the great flame. Upon research with astronomy software, that will be Regulus. Okay, the third one you see there, called Denebola. Denebola was called Anpu. I should have Anpu here, not Anubis. Anpu, which was called Anubis. And through each of these stars, I read the text from the actual papyrus. It said, in the second month of the season of Akhet, on its 4th day, the calendar says, this is the day of the going forth of Anpu for the inspection of this Wabet, for the protection of the body of the god. Okay, upon analysis, this would be Denebola in Leo, Beta Leo. It also said this is the day, on the 3rd month of Peret, on the 6th day of that month, it said, jubilation of Osar and Busiris, going forth of Anpu, his adorers following him. He has received everybody in the hall. And this is the chronicle rising of Denebola. meaning the star rising at sunset. Okay. Then we have here the ecliptic, which was called the Majesty of Ra. The Majesty of Ra in that text. And the actual papyrus reads, at the nightfall of the followers of Ra, they are visible at night. This refers to the ecliptic. Then we have Canopus, the next one, who was called the goddess Net or Hej-Im-Pet, meaning heliacal setting. If it was heliacal setting, meaning setting at sunrise, it was called Hej-Im-Pet. Otherwise, it was called the goddess Nit or Net. And what I've done, I won't go through each and every one of them, but what I've done is gone through each of these names from the papyrus and made the correlates. So anyone out there who is able to read the papyrus, the Cairo papyrus, or the hieroglyphs could confirm what I'm saying. So I just wish to show you the technical approach that I use to come to these conclusions of these stars. The breakthroughs that I'm seeing in terms of astrology readings are really astounding. How if people have these stars in their chart and I link them to these Neteru, how well it reads the person's life. There's one that may be surprising to many people. This one, Sagittarius. Sagittarius was often linked to the god Set in Egypt because Set was a bowman. He was an archer. And in the old days, particularly like in the Denebola zodiac, as well as in a lot of Canaanite and Babylonian astrology, Sagittarius and the Canaanites were Kamau. They were actually Nubians who had moved far north beyond Kemet. But the old astrology texts refer to Sagittarius as the great man of war. You've seen this if you've seen the Harry Potter series, that the centaurs are a very violent group. That's how they were seen by many astrologers from ancient texts. Many people think of a Sagittarius as being benevolent and kind, but it's a vicious set of stars. In fact, in Kemet, it's shown as a two-faced centaur, the back face being a raging lion. So these stars are very violent. Hitler had these stars strong. World War I had these stars strong. Some of the most vicious stars like Phaseus are in this constellation. It's a very dangerous constellation. Many religions were started, many wars were caused due to religious differences. So the text actually says, on the second month of the season of Petit, its third day, it reads, and that will be around December 18th in the time this was written in ancient Egypt. It is the day of the going forth of Set, together with his confederates, to the eastern horizon. If you run an astronomy software for that time, what you would see is Sagittarius would fit that description. Okay? So let's see if there are more texts about Sagittarius. There's a pyramid text that states that Set does not die, he escapes his day of death. And when I did the calculations for that particular statement, it also came out with Sagittarius. So this matches the ancient view of Sagittarius. So I could go on and on. Here I have the Kemetic view of the ecliptical forces. Here we have the 12 signs. So here what I have here is the actual ancient Kemetic deity of this sign, and then the more modern version that we use. So Aries was called Amun, but we say Herkuhutigeb. All three are true. Taurus is called Ptah. We call it Heteru. Both are true. Gemini was called Shutefnut. We call it Apwat. Both are true. Cancer is Kepera in the old days, Ast today. Leo was Atum or and we use Rahru, and so on and so forth. Whatever's in parentheses is what we use today, and that which comes before it is what was used in the actual ancient texts. And here we have a list of the pole stars that go from Hercules to Lyra. And I listed here the time in history when they were the pole star. When Hercules was the pole star, but that was called Ra. That was 12,700 BC. Boetes, we called Ska, the plowman, was the pole star at 9,000 BC. Draco, called Taurt by the Kamau, was 5,300 BC's pole star. Ursa Minor Polaris was called Apwat, 1600 BC, became the pole star. Cepheus was called Awon or Kaf, 2100 AD, will become the pole star. And we can go down the list. Finally here, we have some major constellations. The Big Dipper was called Mesketu. Orion was called Sahu. Canis Major, the big dog, was called Sopedet and belonged to Ast. And by the way, Orion belonged to Osar. And here's a very important line here. A lot of my research on the meaning of these stars from the Kemetic point of view, I'm linking to the texts, the Cairo papyrus and such, the pyramid texts, as well as many of the information from the Dogon astrology language. So here we have Sirius, which is called Sopedu, who the Kamau called Haru, the Dogon called Sigi Tolo. Tolo means star. So the star of the Sigi festival. And there are 3 stars around the Sirius system, Sirius, Sirius B, and Sirius C. The Dogon calls Sirius B Potolo, the star of deep beginnings, and it is actually Osar. It is a white dwarf, and Osar is often shown as the lord of the great white cloth. And Sirius C, the Dogon called Emeyatolo, the star of the female sorghum seed, and we called it Nebuchadnezzar. So the constellation, the big dog, we call it the great cow, who was Ast. We have Ast. We have Sirius, which is Heru. We have Sirius B, which is Osar. And we have Sirius C, which is Nebuchadnezzar. This last line is very important. I won't be able to expound on it at this point, but rest assured, this correlation has vast implications for the liberation of Africa. So, enjoy this list, review it, and I will be doing more on this. There's more information available if you go to kingrasumaba.com. I'll put a link below for the classes I teach on astrology, Kemetic astrology, African astrology, and the chakras. The chakras are a very powerful teaching called the 7 African Powers. If you do nothing else, sign up for that class. It's very inexpensive, very cost-effective, and it is a very powerful investment in yourself, in your divinity, and in your power. So, again, review this list of Neteru. For example, you may find that if you are a Libra, you have a lot of Ma'at actually in you, a lot of Bast in you, that their myths are playing out in your life strongly. If you are, let's say, Gemini, you have a lot of Shu Tefnut or Apwat playing out in you. Okay? If the star Regulus is strong in your chart, that means there's a great flame in you. Okay? If Shaola, the stars in the stinger of Scorpion, are strong in you, then the bitter forces dominate your life. So this is a very useful list to clarify your chart and your life. So again, Duau, and we shall speak to you all very, very soon. Duau and Hotepu.